I live in Toronto, that's in Canada, and my name is Barbara. I currently work at Oanda as a product manager, and previously, as Steve also said, I worked with Blake together, kind of like a performance advocate, senior architect at the CBC. And I love burritos. And what I normally do is when I go to conferences, I ask the audience to tweet me the best burrito place in the city that I'm in. So I'm now obviously encouraging everybody here in New York who is here from New York to basically post or tweet me with this hashtag where I should eat burrito before I head out tonight. And I also run the meetup group, the Web Performance Meetup group in Toronto. I'm very proud that we've been really increasing our members. We're about 250 members now. And this is, for me, it's great stuff. All right, enough about me. Let's get this party started. Just out of curiosity, I'm not quite sure if the answer will be yes, but who here owns a website? Great, okay. And who here, from those guys who just raised a hand, included a third-party script before? Okay, good. So I think that was a good choice to do this topic with you guys. Just to start off, what is a third-party script? And I would like to quote Ben Vinegar. He used to work at Discus, and he wrote this really nice and excellent book called Third-Party Script. So he says basically, in the strictest sense, anything served to the client that's provided by an organization that's not the website provider, we consider this third party. What are those, like what kind of types could third parties be? Well, it's advertising, it's tracking, it's analytics, fonts, social media, and libraries and frameworks. And while I'm talking about third-party publishers today, I also want to make sure that the providers, they have a tough job as well. I definitely agree with that, because what they put on their client's website has to basically live forever and has to be supported forever. They also don't know where people put their script in, if it's at the top or the bottom. So there's definitely a lot of challenges for providers, but again, I'm focusing on the publishers. So while I was preparing this talk, I wanted to know, well, what is actually the number one used 30 script out there? And thanks to Steve's HTTP archive, and then also lately the BigQuery tool that I think you all should check out, done by Google and Ilya Grigorek, you can basically query HTTP archive. And that combination, BigQuery and HTTP archive, is the perfect combo to answer questions like that. So, what do you guys think? Number one used third-party script in the world. Okay, I think you guys probably are right with your answers. So yeah, people said jQuery, then Google, and Facebook as well. And the last time I ran this query, actually, Facebook was number one. But now I guess Google took over. So on the right side is the query that I ran against HTTP archive. And when you look at the kind of the top 10 distribution, you see most of the stuff is occupied by Google. So you see the blue marker here. Then green is Facebook, and then a top 10, top spot number 10 is Twitter. So that was one question I wanted to answer. And then thankfully, there's another great tool. It's the BigQuery's forum, where everybody can basically post their questions and their queries. And I think it was actually Steve raising this question of the distribution of third-party scripts versus first-party script. And as you can see, steadily over time, we're growing. More third-party scripts are coming to our own website. So we should get ready. And we should make sure or understand that we're depending more and more on third-party scripts these days. So let's pay attention to them. Let's see how we can include them properly and how we use them. So let's start first. How can we do this to actually we'll visualize the impact of third-party scripts? And this is a Firefox plugin which called 3D Tilt, and basically what that does to you, it's kind of, as I said, a visual representation. It shows the social media plugins there, and it layers each node based on the nesting in the HTML tree. So I think for somebody maybe who's not too technical, show that and say, hey, look at this. This has a huge impact. Another one which I love, and I get always like worried and I'm surprised, is when I use Ghostery. Ghostery is a tool that parses the website that you're viewing in your browser and shows to you how many actually third-party scripts are being used. So this is Wired, 41 scripts. I wonder if they're all necessary. And Tapad, I've never heard Tapad. I don't know what that does. Herald Sun, 81 scripts. That's quite a lot. And then again, I go down, I look at those scripts and think about odometry. I don't know what odometry is. So is that really needed on your website? As you can tell, there is for sure a foreign content overload that we're seeing here. And also when you look at this example, this is the content breakdown or domain breakdown from webpage.org for wired.com. And you can see that literally only 40 to 50% is actually coming from the wired.com domain. The rest is coming from third-party scripts. And if you consider that each HTTP request costs around 200 milliseconds, and you add up the DNS lookup and everything, you might want to consider that you really need all those scripts. But then again, so what is really the issue? Because we all know that ads, they help us make money, they pay the bills. Tracking is also very important because you kind of want to, segment and profile your users and maybe give them a customized experience. This is why I'm here today. I want to tell you what you should be aware of when you include third-party scripts, ask the right questions to the publishers, and basically help you to understand that. So first, I want to share with you the issues and the negative impacts of third-party scripts. So talking about performance, front-end single point of failure, SPOF, and privacy. And then I don't want to leave you with that. I also want to be a bit positive and actually give you some potential solutions that you can use. So that would be safe snippets that I wanted to share with you. I also want to talk about caching, if and how caching could help you. Talk about hosted libraries, that maybe is something you want to explore. And then at the end, some tools and initiatives that have been started over the last few years. Let's start with the performance aspect. Bottom line is anything you add to your website will increase the weight of your website and will also automatically slow it down. So you have to think about, again, adding third-party scripts. You think about different hosts, different DNS lookups. You have maybe some latency issues. All that stuff is obviously related to that. So how can we justify third-party content and its value, when to include it and when not to include it? And I formulated this formula based on this sentence that I heard at one of the Google I/O talks, and it was from the guys who did the Google +1 button. And I like this because it basically says the value you get out of the widget needs to be greater than the performance hit you're taking. Good example, Government UK. So what they did is they included Facebook and Twitter, but research showed that only 0.2% page views actually used those buttons. So in this case, why having them in there if nobody uses them? So maybe we take them out. Nielsen kind of backs up that rule of thumb as well. So what that means is promotional space, so ads. If you have a slow loading website, the total viewing time, or only 1% of the total viewing time of a user, they will look at the promotional space. If your website is very fast, the likelihood or the time that they will be viewing the ads is way bigger, in this case 20%. So you should make sure that ad is loaded fast, and in general the web page is also loaded fast. Web page, a website without ads, obviously that's very curious. I was very curious about that, and I saw one of the tweets from Steve many years ago, 2011. Ymail turned ads off for 3 days, and the load time dropped by 73%. That's a lot. When I used to work at CBC, we had kind of similar experience where we had to turn off actually ads for a few days over a weekend, and it was my time to go in and check what actually the result was. And even here, I mean, we use server-side code for ad code, but the client-side ad code actually increased the page load time by 40%, meaning without ads, we had 40% faster page load time. The reason why I'm telling you that, and even I was able to do this stuff, to see what happens with the CBC website, was because we were monitoring it. And I think that is very, very important when you add content that is not yours to your website. You want to make sure to monitor this. So that was the journey that happened with the CBC Touch website. So at the beginning, we were, our mean was, I think, 6.5 seconds. So it was smooth sailing. We were all happy. And then we noticed a spike. And then the spike went all the way up where we noticed, wow, there's some really weird JavaScript running on our website that's not ours. What did the ad team do there? So we said, no, this is unacceptable because we're reaching 10 seconds of load time. We don't want to, that's not good for our users. So we said, okay, let's rather fix this, turn it off. So we did that. So obviously that drop in 40% now comes down. And so we turned off ads, and then after that, it normalized itself again. So we were back to the normal page load time. So that was bad, but there's something that can be even worse, and that would be single point of failure. So single point of failure is basically a part of a system that, if it fails, will stop the entire system from working. How can that happen with third-party scripts and script tags? May I introduce the offender tag? So this is, thirdparty.com, and I want to ask you guys, and I'm sure by now you know what I'm probably going to ask now, but what do you think is going to happen if thirdparty.com is down to your website? Yeah, okay, thank you. So it will block rendering anything after this line. So if you have that script at the top of your page, you're probably not going to see much more after that. And then, you think, well, but third-party providers, they're really cool and they're really, they don't really go down. Yes, they do. It happens. 2012, October, Facebook goes down. February 2013, Facebook goes down. Mix it up. Twitter, March 2013, goes down. Then Amazon takes down Instagram and Vine, Airbnb, August 2013. And Facebook down again, June 2014. And then August 1st, 2014, Facebook goes down. And then you could probably still consider it as BOF, but that was, Ilya posted this, it was the jQuery certificate, the HTTPS certificate expired, and basically broke a bunch of sites because they were referencing this. So if you had a failover or something included in your script or in your page, that probably would have solved the issue, and I'll show that to you later. And then I needed to put this slide in because I think this is amazing. So somebody really called 911 when Facebook was down. And what I want to iterate or tell you guys with this slide is that first of all, what is your 911 number in case of a performance emergency? And I would almost argue, don't have a 911 a number that you have to call. You can do this as prevention, that you don't have to have your 911 call. So this was, I think that was I couldn't resist. Another thing is the Great Firewall of China that could cause BOF. It's a censorship and surveillance project, and it was begun in November 2003, and several websites such as Twitter, they're blocked in China. So that means if you don't include your script properly, bad stuff can happen when somebody views that in China. So this is where it starts. I don't want to pick on TechCrunch, okay? And if anybody here in the audience is from TechCrunch, apologize. If somebody here is from Mashable, and you guys are probably very happy now what I'm going to show you. But I need an example. So I'm going to show you now TechCrunch. TechCrunch business relies on online content, and they even reported about third-party scripts going down, like such as Facebook. So here you will see on the left side, no issues, Twitter is not down, or assuming you're in China and somebody is looking at TechCrunch. And on the right side, that will be assuming Twitter is down. Oops, great. So after 5 seconds, TechCrunch has loaded, and then on the right side again. So by now, probably people would have said, "Oh, I'll go to another website, Mashable or whatever." So you would lose that. You would lose that customer or this opportunity, whatever they would want to do. How did I do this? So this is a very neat tool by Pat, Spofomatic. So you install it in Chrome, for example, and every single time you go to a website, it shows you the potential SPOF impact indicated with a little badge. And then from there, you can actually click this Generate SPOF comparison video. When you click on this, what happens is you go to webpage.org. It's pre-populated for you with the URL. And then at the bottom, in that advanced register tab, it says SPOF. There, the scripts that could potentially cause a SPOF are included in there. And then it creates a film strip for you. And here in this case, you see the orange one without SPOF, meaning everything is going smooth. And then on the right side, you see what happens if SPOF happens, or if there's some blocking happening. All right, let's try to crash this party. While I was working at CBC, we had just started to roll out a new commenting system. And while I was obviously very interested in the topic of performance, I said, okay, let's check out what we've done. How did we include that new commenting system? So I pull out the source code, and I don't know if you can see this. I just noticed this, and you can also see the body tag here. Again, let's do a little quiz. What do you guys think happened if VR4 were, so VR4 is a commenting platform, if they were to go down? Blank page, basically, exactly. That's what would happen. So website loads with comments, and on the right side, commenting is down, and we wouldn't be showing any content. So let's fix that. One very simple, not most perfect, but very simple would be just to put it at the bottom, or include this asynchronous script here, which literally what I did, I mean, several people have referenced that kind of script tag. In this case, I took it from Stojan's website, just copied it. So you see there are a bunch of different ways of initializing those client-side scripts. One I want to bring up is kind of the safest or previous way of doing things. It's the dynamic script tag. It covers most of the browsers. So let's go through it quickly. We start off with the immediate function, so just to ensure that any temporary variable remain in the local scope and don't bleed into the host's global namespace. Then you declare a variable to find the first available script element on the page. Then if the script hasn't been already previously included, then include it again, otherwise exit, because we don't need several times the same thing. Then you create the actual element and assign an ID to it so you can reference it later. Then you assign the source, so in this case it would be the VR4 path. And then you include it into the DOM with the last piece. So fairly simple. Let's go back to the example that I showed you. So this is how it looked before, 5 seconds, CBC page, after around 25 seconds with the commenting platform being down, then it started loading. And this is what happened after I actually used this. So see, there was no difference. The only difference, obviously, between those two pages was that the second one with VR4 being down, there wouldn't be any comments. I mean, it's not as bad as the whole website being down, right? As an example, also here, there are a bunch of the different variations that I had in terms of the first line is the regular SPOF, meaning if I don't do anything, the site obviously looks blank. The second one, when I put it at the bottom, you see it does load, but definitely slower than the async number 3, which was the async at the bottom, I think. Yeah. And then, so this is how we've done things in the past, or still doing it. But there are also new findings and new things coming up, as in the async attribute and the defer attribute, which doesn't block on CSS object model while it's parsing. So let's go through that. So this is the regular script tag. And then you have the new attributes async and defer. And async, as it sounds, asynchronously, so it won't block any rendering of the DOM or the CSS object model. Defer will run when the browser is done, basically loading the page. So this is what you can use. Problem is, though, that it's not supported by all browsers yet. There's still Android 2.3 and IE. It's not supported. It's, I think, I think IE 5.5 till 9 is supported, or defer is supported there. So you have to make sure what your audience is, how many people are actually coming from older browsers, and decide based on that. Maybe then the safest would be the previous tag that I showed you, or script, the inline script. But a good combo, and actually that's one of the things also suggested by the W3C, is actually use defer and async. So basically hit those older IE browsers with defer, and then async for the newest, just to make sure that you're not blocking too much. And overall, with all the things that I showed you, you see it's good to protect yourself. And there are a lot of tools out there that help you. So there's those ad hoc browser tools that I showed you with Spofomatic and web page test, where you can play around with things. But there are also really neat and nice tools in terms of continuous integration and deployment. So I think eBay even, they have, it's called Spof Check, and what they do is, which I like, is so they included it into their deployment process. So every single time somebody uses the offender tag, it actually, the build stops and it fails. So maybe that's something to consider, so you don't have to actually do an ad hoc check on this. Caching as a solution as well. I'm thinking if the cache is high, then the better chance you have, if actually your third-party provider goes down in a short period of time, you might not actually experience that because you're still using the cached version. But in reality, you can't really always rely on this, because normally third-party providers have a very aggressive expiration policy, so they're refreshing a lot. Obviously, they want to potentially push content or new scripts or new things anytime, and don't want to wait for the user too long. Here, BigQuery, my best friend. I ran a query that was from the previous one, the third-party script, the distribution. And you see, you have Facebook has 20 minutes, a cache policy, Google 3 minutes, no cache for at this. So there's definitely a variety of things that you should definitely pay attention to that. And then hosted libraries. We all know that Google offers a lot of hosted libraries that you can plug in, let it be jQuery, let it be Dojo, any other things. Also here again, I wanted to get a sense of how many actually people or how many websites are actually using Google hosted libraries. And you see over the years, it has increased. So there are a lot of people actually using Google libraries, APIs, or hosted scripts there. The latest, I think, that Pi is from September. So I think 45%. But then you go to the Google Libraries API website to take your script and get the code to include it in your page. But then I see, when I looked at it, I thought, well, it says, use the script and plug it in, Anybody here noticing anything here with that script? Sorry? Sorry. Okay, exactly. Yeah, sorry. Okay, that's right, exactly. So it's not telling you to do async or defer, put in there, or any asynchronous solution, and also anywhere on the web page. So I would love for this page to be updated to give a bit more information how to do this. So as I said, definitely a spoof alert if you don't pay attention. So don't do this, but rather do either the async or the deferable, or the asynchronous dynamic script solution. And then if you have issues with loading jQuery, then always have a failover, to actually use a local version of your script. That would be good, of the jQuery script. And then the other one is, when we think about jQuery, it would be nice if we all used jQuery, the same version, everybody, and using it from Google's hosted libraries webpage. But unfortunately, in reality, that's not the case. It would be great, because assuming you go, as a user, somebody goes to website A and there's jQuery on it loaded from Google's CDN, they go to webpage B, same thing. If they had the same version, we could save a lot of bandwidth there. But as I said, in reality, it's not the case. There's a lot of different jQuery versions out there, so it would be actually great to have just one primary source. So what's the verdict? Should you use hosted libraries or not? I mean, it definitely has a benefit because you're saving bandwidth or any maintenance costs, because you're not hosting it on your end. Google CDN performance is probably really good, so you might want to tag along there. In terms of the negative aspects, it is an extra DNS lookup that you have to do. And if you actually, your company or your website anyways uses a CDN, you might not need another CDN to leverage from. And now let's talk a bit about privacy. As a third-party publisher, you want to make sure that you choose a provider that actually values privacy, because you don't want them to steal the data that is going through your website. You don't want them to manipulate anything on your website that you haven't allowed them to do. And obviously not track anything that you haven't agreed with the user and the provider to do. So I have to bring up Facebook. There's the like button. We all know the like button. And it allows you to share content that you like with your friends. And it is an opt-in option, which is great. So you decide when you want to like this and want your friends to see what you like. But unfortunately, there's also the fact that Facebook is sending stuff prior to even you clicking on anything, probably already connecting to ad servers or whatever. So you don't know what they basically share. Is it the visit a website before, or somewhere stored in a cookie? Is it your IP or anything like that? And I don't think you agree to that. So on that note, I want to come up with some open source initiatives and resources, kind of show you what are the good ones. There's, in terms of privacy, I want to call out a privacy hero, which is Heise. Heise is a German computer magazine online. And what they did, they came up with this thing called two-click solution. So this is advantage for privacy and performance. So you go to a website, there's a like button, but you decide if you want to initiate the like action, load the script, and also have then that exchange from Facebook servers coming up. And I really like that because, as I said, it's not only helping you with privacy, but it also only loads the Facebook script once you actually allowed and said yes to it. Unfortunately, part of that, I tried to translate with Google Translate the right piece, so the left piece is still German, but it basically says click and activate. I guess you guys can figure that. So that's for privacy. Then So happy that Philip is in the audience as well. I also definitely want to call out some third-party performance heroes. Stoyan and Philip, they do a lot of great stuff, post a lot of stuff, educate people how to use things, how not to use things. So I think we should definitely be giving them kudos for doing this for sure. Also, Google has a website developer page where they list actually all the companies, all the third-party providers who use asynchronous scripts and offer them, even have blog posts about it. So you can see there's a lot of transparency, and those are the third-party scripts that you want to work with because they really care about performance. And then what happened recently, which I'm also very happy about, is it was very difficult to measure the performance of third-party scripts on your own page because even navigation and resource timing API was actually not able, you couldn't access that on non-cross-domain resources. So thankfully, slowly more, third-party providers actually started setting a specific header, which is the timing allow origin header. And what that allows you, if they set this, you can use navigation and resource timing API to actually check on the third-party script. You can check how long the DNS lookup, like all the things that normally are available for you in the navigation and resource timing on that page. So you can evaluate actually, is this really good? And I like to see that, or I definitely want to point out that many big third-party providers have started to include this, and you can see even this is an increase. People or third-party providers react to things like that and help the audience. Another one which definitely needs a bit more love is something what we call JS Manners. Andrew, so we were on a panel last year at the Edge conference in New York, and we're talking about third-party scripts. And then kind of after that, we started discussing and communicating and said, oh, we should really enforce something for third-party providers. So what Andrew, and mainly really Andrew, pushed us out, we came up with JS Manners, and this is kind of like a scoring system for scripts. We haven't really had a lot of contribution yet, but basically the idea is if you have a script or provider, we have a bunch of questions that you have to answer, and based on that, we give a grade or like a mark for the third-party script. So if you want to review this and then say, you know what, oh, okay, I guess script X got a lot of bad reviews, so maybe I don't want to deal with this third-party provider. So definitely contribute and give your 2 cents to this as well. All right, so to kind of wrap this up, next time before you copy and paste, as a publisher and developer, what are the things you should look out for? I would say refuse third-party content that doesn't provide asynchronous options or is not even minified. I had, not the pleasure, but I've seen scripts, third-party scripts that were given to us, and I looked at the source code, and there were even release notes still in there, not minified. Comments are still in there. This is a quick win. You can minify and clean this up. Also put the risk in the SLA, like figure out like how many times they're actually up and down their service. Review JS Manners, just a little plug here again. Educate other developers or junior developers when they come in, tell them, just spread the word. Test stuff via the navigation and resource timing where applicable, especially if you're evaluating, see how the script is behaving on your side and the response time. Ask for server-side options. We did this with actually CBC. We didn't use JavaScript at the beginning. We actually used a server-side solution, and that was really good for performance. Evaluate tag managers. I know that I see some Etsy people. I think Etsy is using tag managers. That's at least what I heard, would seem to be working quite well. Investigate hosted libraries. Again, if you have your own CDN, don't bother, I would say. Just use your CDN. Monitor. I think it's the whole thing here about Velocity. It's about measuring and monitoring things and making things better. And I think, which is very important as well to mention, and that's the biggest challenge, I guess, is evaluate the need of the script with marketing and sales, because the problem is that marketing and sales wants everything tracked and customized, and every script that comes in, they want to add. Don't be angry with them. Be rather, communicate with them and say, hey, let's figure out how we can do this. Maybe we can do this ourselves. We don't need to outsource things or have third-party scripts in there. Is it really worth? Is really the value greater than the performance that you're taking? Script providers, please provide non-blocking code samples and snippets. And again, also here, I think that needs a bit more love or a bit more attention. It's kind of like an integration or verification process that maybe third-party scripts, once you have actually gone and you've put the script in, that the company that you work together, that somebody from the third-party provider goes through your code and says, yeah, you did it right, you did it wrong. So a bit more support there as well. And that was it. The party's over. So, sorry. So just so for you guys, before I take questions, I have a bit.ly URL that links to a blog post that I did, where it just basically lists all the resources that I showed you today, all the comments and websites that I referenced to. And then I also want to obviously do a shameless plug. I'm writing a book about lean websites, and I will be talking about this a lot as well. And if we can't talk now or chat, I have the office hour right at 2 p.m., so in 5 minutes.
Maybe one or two questions?
Yeah.
So if you're loading jQuery asynchronously, how do you ensure it's available when your own script runs?
Okay, just to repeat it, because I think that you don't use a microphone. So your question was, how do, when I asynchronously load jQuery, that I make sure that my own scripts are running? Then you do, well, you check it on what is, I'm not quite sure if I understand.
If you load it synchronously, then you ensure that jQuery is available before your own script that relies on jQuery runs.
So then you probably,
Asynchronously, then there's a race condition.
yeah, you probably want to do like a loader script, like a library that tells you what script to load first. Yeah. Yeah.
What CSS assets?
CSS assets?
You talked a lot about JavaScript, but what about CSS? Looking at CSS is typically a blocking asset.
Yeah.
Is there any way to asynchronously load that as well?
No, so I think with CSS, obviously, it's very important to load that at the very, very first part of the page, right, in the head. So anything, I mean, the asynchronous script, the async and the defer attribute, you can obviously put also in the head. But again, you want to keep the head very clean and not bloat it too much. Okay, I think that's it. So guys, if you have more questions, I'll be at the table 1.